My best advice to incoming students is to be open and to stay open. The students I love are the ones I meet before they've made a decision even, and they'll meet me in sort of a fair, university fair, or on a visit to the campus, and I'll say, what are you interested in? And they'll say, no. They have no idea, and they're so scared to admit that they're not sure what they want to do. And then I'll meet some that will give me an answer. And then I can see that that's literally the thing that they've been saying over and over. And so the advice is, here you had the opportunity I didn't have, that I fought for, which is a place where you can take a different direction. You can come in thinking you want to do one thing, and it's not impossible in that first year to just experiment, open up, see what other things you can do. We encourage that. Were you always interested in philosophy? Take a class in philosophy and see if you like that, right? What about a language? You really wanted to understand a bit more about Indigenous language and culture? Take a class. We're not committing to that, but what you're doing is remaining open to the idea that this could be something that I love. And you can mix it up here. It's so much easier. You don't have to fight. You can say, I want to do this weird thing and that weird thing, and it can come together. From the beginning of a class to the end of a class, if I can have students see in themselves and reflect, I grew so much. That's what I'm interested in. What did you learn about you? What did you learn about your capacity and your ability? For me to send them out of the university with that kind of confidence and the ability to understand they may not have met something, a new app, a new technology, it doesn't matter. They know they can face it, and they've dealt with it before, and they will deal with it again, and they will succeed.
Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining tonight's Discover Day. My name is Alicia Singh and I'm a student recruitment officer here at the University of Toronto, Mississauga. Today I'm joined by my lovely colleagues, OJ, who is a recruitment officer, and Melissa, who is a current student. So I'm going to pass things over to OJ to start introducing himself, and then Melissa.
Hello everyone, my name is OJ Israel. I'm going to be back on the chat here answering some of your questions. I'm a diversity recruitment officer and I'm glad to be here. On to Melissa.
Thank you, OJ. Hi, everyone. My name is Melissa, and I'm a fourth-year student at UTM, and I'm currently doing a psychology specialist and a biology minor.
Thank you so much. So for today's presentation, I'm going to give a really quick overview about the University of Toronto, Mississauga, for you to understand a little bit more about what our campus and institution is about. After that, Melissa is going to walk us through her campus tour to share you the inside scoop of what is it like to actually be a student here at the University of Toronto, Mississauga. Throughout the presentation, if you do have any questions whatsoever, feel free to drop them in the chat, and I have a team of colleagues behind the scenes who are definitely going to be able to help address any of those questions. At the very end of the presentation, we're going to come back live and help to answer all of those questions. So I'm going to say bye to OJ and Melissa, and I'm going to see them both shortly. Before we get started, I am going to begin with a land acknowledgement. We wish to acknowledge this land on which the University of Toronto operates. For thousands of years, it has been the traditional land of the Huron-Wendat, the Seneca, and the Mississaugas of the Credit. Today, this meeting place is still home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island, and we are grateful to have the opportunity to work on this land. Now, for those of you who are interested in tuning in to learn more about the University of Toronto, Mississauga, well, the University of Toronto is one institution with 3 distinct campuses that are spread across the Greater Toronto region. Now, what does that really mean for you? Well, it means that you have the option to choose which of our 3 campuses you'd like to study at to gain a world-class education and graduate with a University of Toronto degree that is globally renowned. Now, here at our campus, what we do have to offer you is that we give our students tons of options for choice, which means that you are able to choose from over 180 different undergraduate programs to study in that are part of 18 different academic departments. This truly means for you that you're able to explore what is the right avenue and what is your passions. Now, we're going to be talking a little bit more about UTM. So this snapshot is just a very small glimpse of all that we have to offer. For those of you who are new or not really familiar with the Greater Toronto area, the University of Toronto, Mississauga is just about 30 minutes west from the city of Toronto. Now, the University of Toronto, Mississauga, we truly want to make sure that our students have the opportunity to integrate experiential learning whenever possible. That means that we give tons of opportunities for you to apply the theory you learn in class to the real world, whether that means through research, internship, work opportunities, placements, and so forth. We definitely have a beautiful campus, and I know I sound a little biased, but I promise you it's definitely a sight to see. You're obviously going to be greeted by the deer, and if you don't know what I'm talking about just yet, stay tuned because you'll definitely know by the very end of our presentation. We do have tons of programs for you to choose from, but we also do have unique ones that are unique to our campus. This includes forensic science, theater and drama studies, as well as culture, communication, information, and technology. Now, here at UTM, we strive to make sure that we have your representation on campus, whether that means through special interests, culture, religion, and so forth. So we encourage our students to actively get involved in the great student life portions that we do have from tons of the clubs as well as academic societies. And last but not least, we are a community that is diverse. We have students who come from all across the world to be a part of our growing community. What that means for you is that you're going to be exposed to different language, art, music, food here on campus, and Melissa's going to touch a little bit more about that shortly in her tour. So with that being said, I'm going to pass things over to Melissa and let her walk us through her campus tour.
Thank you, Alicia. Hi, everyone. Again, my name is Melissa, and I'm a 4th-year student, and I'm studying psychology and biology. And I'm also a student ambassador in the Office of Student Recruitment and Admissions. A little bit about myself. I went to Cawthor Park Secondary School, where I was a part of the Regional Arts program as a vocal major. And I've been singing since I was 8 years old. And since then, I've been a part of 6 choirs, and I've done multiple solo performances. Throughout the tour, I will talk about how I like to get involved on campus, what each building has to offer, as well as my favorite places to be on campus. The first stop is going to be the CNEF and Innovation Complex. CNEF is home to the Student Recruitment and Admissions Office. This is where I work as a student ambassador, and it's here at the Student Recruitment and Admissions Office where students can ask any questions related to admissions, for example, how to apply to UTM, and this is also where we run campus tours. Each building at UTM is affiliated with an academic department, and in CNEF, the academic departments include commerce, management, economics, and some master's programs. And within CNEF, it's home to one of the larger lecture halls. This is KN 137. It seats up to 300 students, and this is where I had my second year neuroscience course. At University of Toronto, Mississauga, students will have lectures, which are taught by professors, and labs and or tutorials. And these are taught by teaching assistants or TAs, and they're more hands-on. And generally for first-year students, their lectures are going to be between 300 to 500 students, whereas labs and tutorials are around 25 to 30 students. Right outside, we have the Office of the Registrar, and this is where students can go to for any academic or financial aid advice, I come to the registrar when I need help planning my schedule or I have questions regarding tuition for domestic students. One reason I came to the registrar was for help switching my program of study. I was originally pursuing a psychology major and a linguistics minor because I planned on becoming a speech language pathologist. And I've always had a really big passion for helping others, and science was always one of my favorite subjects in school. After taking a second-year anatomy and physiology course, this is when I realized that I wanted to pursue medical school and work towards becoming a gastroenterologist. With the help of an academic advisor, I ended up dropping my linguistics minor in place for a biology minor and changed my psychology major for a general psychology specialist. And since COVID, we now have Ask Registrar, and this is a virtual platform to help students get into contact with an academic or financial aid advisor. And you'll find that on our campus, many buildings are connected. We're going to take you to our next building, which is Davis. And if we were on campus, I would take you down to the underground tunnel from the Kneff building to Davis building. This is the William G. Davis building. This is the largest building on campus and has several resources available for students. The academic departments in Davis include chemistry, biology, physics, and earth sciences. For me, I've had all of my biology labs in the Davis building. In my first year, I got to work with several organisms in my first year labs. For example, I worked with crickets, E. coli, and potato bugs. And in my upper years, I took more dissection labs. My third year, I took a lab where I dissected a dogfish, which is a small shark, and a cat. I also took chemistry, but I took chemistry during COVID, so it was online. And in online labs, you do lab simulations called Labster simulations, and or watched demonstrations of the lab with the TA. We also have the Career Center found here. And this is where students can go for any assistance preparing for jobs and or graduate education. I've gone to the Career Center for help looking over my resume and personal statement for grad school, and I do plan on going for a mock interview to help prepare me for medical school. And I mentioned a few slides ago that I would love to be a doctor someday, and to help me reach my career goal, I've been trying to get relevant work/volunteer experience, for example, trying to volunteer at a local hospital. And I feel going to the Career Center for assistance will help students navigate the professional journey, even if it's been changed. We also have the International Education Center, and this can assist international students with, for example, getting study permits. And they also offer study abroad programs. I've applied to one of these study abroad opportunities to the University of Sydney in Australia, and I've gotten in, but unfortunately, due to the pandemic, I did have to cancel my exchange, so I will be applying again for next year. If I were to be going this year, I'll be going from February to June, so it's just a semester long. And I chose these months because in Australia right now it's summertime, and I'm not a huge fan of the cold. And we also have the Experiential Education Unit, and this helps to provide students with opportunities outside the classroom. One of these opportunities includes the Research Opportunity Program, or ROP, and this is where students can help professors with the research. And I haven't done an ROP as of yet, but I do plan on applying to one in the fall. I want to apply to one where the professor does research on naked mole rats. And I also want to let you guys know that I think it's really important to get involved in research. I highly recommend it. For me, I've done research in a social personality lab, behavioral epigenetic lab, and now I'm doing my own project in a neuroscience lab where my test subjects are zebrafish. And there's so much that U of T can offer you in regards to research, and research opportunities are available for students across all program areas of study, so it's not just limited to the sciences. And last but not least, there's lots of good food choices here. We have Harvey's Pizza, a Mongolian grill, and my personal favorite is Thai Express. I remember I tried it in my first and second year with one of my friends, and we were both obsessed You'd go every Wednesday. It was really bad. I'd always get the chicken pad thai. And to help burn off the chicken pad thai, I would head to the Recreational Athletic and Wellness Center, or also known as the gym. So this is the rock. And I find that one of the best ways to help me de-stress and to improve my mood is to get some exercise. As a whole, our facility includes an 8-lap pool, 2 floors of workout equipment, a 400-meter track, 2 large gyms, and smaller rooms where students can attend classes such as yoga, dance, and martial arts. My favorite part about the gym is running on the 400-meter track and using the workout equipment. And the rock is also included in your tuition. And in order to access the gym, you just have to show the front desk your student card, or we call it your T card. And since COVID, we also offer online classes to students. We're going to head to our next building, which is the Communication, Culture, and Technology Building, or CCT. So in the Communication, Culture, and Technology Building, or CCT, the academic department in this building is the Communication, Culture, Information, and Technology Program, or CCIT. Within the CCT building, we have one of 2 large lecture halls. This is CC 1080, and it holds a maximum of 500 students. And you'll most likely have at least one of your first-year classes in this room. For me, I've had anthropology, psychology, and statistics. And right outside CC 1080, we have the IT service desk. And this is where students can go to pick up their T card. And to do this, I recommend going as soon as possible. And it's also where you can go if one of your devices stops working. For me, I've gone to the IT service desk for help when my laptop stops working, and I can troubleshoot with one of the employees there. We're going to head to the building connected to the CCT building, which is the Hazel McCallion Academic Learning Center, or the library. So just a fun fact for you, across all of University of Toronto's campuses, all 3 campuses, we have a total of 44 different libraries. And if you come to the Mississauga Library, the moment you walk in, you can see the reference and research desk. And here, there are specific librarians for each program area that can help you with your schoolwork. Just to the right of it, we have the Information and Loans desk, where you can borrow any sort of study materials such as laptop chargers, DVD players, and headphones. You can also book study spaces, and I find this really helpful when preparing for an exam or presentation. And just overall, the library is a really popular place to study. So if you do plan on studying at the library, I recommend going pretty early. And it's also open 24/7 during exam season. And last but not least, it wouldn't be a study space without a coffee place. So right outside, there is a Starbucks. And it actually got so busy that we had to add a second Starbucks location on campus. Now we're going to make our way over to the Instructional Center, or IB. So in IB, there's no academic departments. The whole building is dedicated just to lecture halls. And one of the large lecture halls that we have in IB is IB 110. This lecture hall seats up to 500 students, and this is where I had first-year psychology, anthropology, sociology, and linguistics. Right beside IB 110, we have IB 120. This seats up to 300 to 400 students, and this is where I had my second year developmental psychology course. We also have lecture halls on the second and third floor as well. These are smaller. They seat around 25 to 50 students and are reserved for smaller lectures and tutorials. IB is also really popular for food. Here we have a Subway, a quesada for those who love Mexican food, a bento sushi, and we have a vending machine that makes really good coffee. Right outside IB, we have the UTM shuttle bus, which is located behind IB, and it makes it convenient for students to travel to and from University of Toronto, Mississauga to University of Toronto, St. George. And the shuttle bus is free of charge for all UTM students specifically. We're going to head to our next building, which is Manjaway and Amawanan, or MN. So Manjaway and Amawanan, or MN, is the newest building on campus, and the academic departments in this building include sociology, history, language studies, philosophy, and political science. And just a fun fact, a lot of movies are filmed on campus, specifically in MN. Some of these movies include Downsizing and Zombies 2. In my first year during the summer, I actually watched the filming of Zombies 2 with one of my psychology professors. One of my favorite resources to access on campus is the Robert Gillespie Academic Skill Center. And this is a resource for students for essay writing, study skills, math, and English help. I've gone to the Skill Center for all my biology, psychology written assignments, statistics help, and my chemistry lab reports. And for every assignment that I've gotten help with, I did really well on. And another thing that the Skill Center offers is facilitated study groups, or FSGs. And these are groups led by upper year students who took the course, and you just go over concepts from lecture that you learned that week. We're now going to head over to the building connected to MN, which is Deerfield Hall. In Deerfield Hall, the academic departments include psychology, theater and drama, and computer science, math, and statistics. For those of you taking any sort of math during your first year, there is a math help room run by professors and teaching assistants that can assist you with any problems you may have. And I did mention that I did take psychology, and this is where I had my psychology lab. And the picture here is the professor I had for this lab. His name is Dr. Jeffrey Graham. He's an amazing professor. And it was in this lab where we got to learn about topics like meditation, conditioning, and unconscious biases. And we also have our second Starbucks, which is also pretty busy as well. And now we're going to make it to our final stop of the tour, which is the Student Center. So the Student Center is the hub of all student life on campus. The University of Toronto Mississauga Student Union, or the UTM-SU, can be found here, and they host several events on campus, one of them being FROSH, which is first year orientation, and they also assist incoming students with setting up a health and dental plan. We also have lots of clubs and academic societies on campus. I myself am part of the UTM Catholic Club, Arundel Biology Society, and PAWS, which is Psychology Association for Undergraduate Students at Arundel. And each of these clubs have meetings and host events that students can join, and I highly recommend you join a club that you find interesting when you come to campus, or you can even create your own. I think I mentioned at the beginning that I'm a bit of a choir nerd, and at the moment I'm collaborating with a friend of mine, and we're planning on creating our own chamber choir on campus. So inside Student Center, we have the Blind Dog Pub, and you can buy food and chat time here. And chat time is a really popular place to grab bubble tea. And if you ever go to the Blind Dog Pub for food, I highly recommend getting the quesadillas. I'm also obsessed with those. Um, we also host pub nights here. For example, Halloween in my second year, I went to a Halloween pub night with one of my friends, and I had a really great time. And right outside the Student Center, we have the My Way Mississauga Transit Bus Terminal. We offer students My Way U passes or bus passes, and you pick them up right at the Student Center, and they're included within your tuition, so you don't have to pay additional fare. And this is the only U of T campus to offer this amenity. And the buses can take you to several locations easily, such as Kipling Station on the Toronto Public Transit Line, Clarkson GO Station, and Square One Shopping Center. So this actually brings me to the end of my tour. I hope everyone got to learn a little bit more about the UTM campus through my lens as a student. And there's so much that UTM can offer you, and I truly hope you choose to attend classes here this fall. Thank you for listening.
Thank you so much, Melissa. We definitely gained a lot of insight. And being a recent alumna myself, you definitely made me miss all the good memories, and not to be a little dramatic, but miss being a student at UTM. So with that being said, I can definitely see that the chat has gone crazy. So OJ and Melissa, what do you say we get started with the QA?
Sounds
Let's go.
good.
All right, so I'm going to keep things short and simple for the first one, and that is, can you guys both share with me what is your favorite part about the campus? I'm going to start off with you, OJ, because I know you're new to our UTM community, so share with us, what is your favorite part?
I'd have to say the back nature area when you walk onto campus is really nice. Also, for the fact that you get to see Bambi walking around campus every once in a while is really cool. But one of the best parts for me as someone that's really into sports and athletics is the soccer field, the volleyball area, and the tennis side area. I really love tennis. So being able to do all that kind of outdoor activities is nice. And even in the winter, going for a good walk just kind of around the campus is really, really nice.
How about you, Melissa?
Yeah, I have to agree with OJ. I really love nature. I love being surrounded by nature. So I figure that I have to go to a school that's completely in nature. And I think that's the main reason why I chose the campus, just because it's so green, and I just find that really relaxing. And of course you hear about the deer, and it's true, you do see a ton of deer on campus. I remember my first year, I was walking to class and I saw a deer give birth. I can't promise you'll see deer birth, but I can promise you will see a couple of deer just walking around campus.
Well, if that's not a unique experience, I don't know what is. You guys have shared really, really great stuff, but I'm going to say something a little different. I really like the cha time on campus, and I just personally am a huge bubble tea fan. So if anyone is out there, I promise that will become your fix. So moving on to the next question. This one is actually for you, Melissa, and that is, Marielle is asking, do they have to be in a certain program to study abroad, or is it open to all programs?
That's a really good question. Yeah, so it's open to all programs. I think each school has different programs that you can choose from, and I don't even think the GPA is too high, so it's not super competitive. I believe it's a 2.0 GPA can get you into any country, and then it kind of just goes up for there. But no, you're really not limited when it comes to study abroad. It can be with any program.
I know this is something OJ and I have talked about before, but we definitely regret not taking that studying abroad experience when we were in undergrad. So hear from us, folks. If you do get the opportunity, definitely leverage it. All right. So the next question I have, Melissa, for you is that, so some students are in the chat are actually applying and interested in life science. And I know you talked about tons of opportunities that are available for students to gain that experiential learning opportunity. And you talked about ROP. So I was wondering if you don't mind sharing a little bit more of what can students gain as a life science student by pursuing research?
That's a great question. So at U of T, we have a honors bachelor's of science or an honors bachelor's of arts, and pretty much the difference between like that honors portion is it encompasses research. So in your upper year courses, you'll be taking research-based courses. Either you're running your own project or your own thesis, and I just recommend getting a head start on that because I don't know, in my first year, I didn't really think much about research. I didn't even know it was an option, so I just never really thought about it until second year when a professor told me about it, and that's when I kind of wanted to get involved. And the way to get involved is whatever program you're studying, you just go to the faculty list and just look through what each professor is studying if they have a lab, and then just maybe email them, say, hey, I like your research, can I volunteer? And who knows, maybe that can lead to you doing your PhD in that topic. So I really think it's important because you may end up really liking it. And even if you don't, it's a really great thing to put on your resume. I think it really makes your whole education more well-rounded.
I definitely agree with that. And to reiterate what Melissa had mentioned earlier is that you can definitely pursue research across any program area of study. So if you're someone in the chat who's not really interested in life science, but you do really like the sound of research, no worries, we've got you covered. All right, OJ, so I have another question for you. And Umra is asking, if a student wants to study online, is it possible?
Well, most of our classes right now are 80% online, in person. So it is possible to study online for some areas, but we hope to be back fully in person by the time it gets to September. So it is on by a case basis. We would suggest that you would actually email us in or look to see what that looks like in September as things do change. But right now we are fully in person.
Yeah, so this happens to probably be, I think, if not our first, I think this is actually all three of us, our first week back in the office for 2022. So the campus is busy. It's definitely the place to be. So yes, we are moving back to the in-person model, and we're hoping to keep it that way. So fingers crossed, everyone, that we continue it. All right, so I'm going to be looking through the chat to see what other questions we have. But in the meantime, yeah.
I can actually ask you a question, Alicia. Someone was asking in the chat, what is the best way to apply to scholarships? I know we mentioned it earlier. Maybe you want to just rephrase that.
Most definitely. So what I'm going to ask is for one of my colleagues to leave into the chat a link called the Award Explorer. Now, this is what I consider to be like the best link possible. Bookmark it all throughout your undergrad. So this has a database of tens of thousands of scholarships, awards, and grants that are available for students that you can apply to from the minute you become a student with us up until you graduate. Now, these scholarships are available either through academic merit, either you completing an essay, or just sharing a little bit more about your experiences. So this is definitely a great place for you to showcase all of your involvement, whether that be in school or outside of school. I've personally used this when I was a student, and it definitely helped a lot. All these little awards do add up. And for anyone who's considering that to not do it, maybe extra work, remember, so many people will be thinking not to fill out those applications, but then that money goes unused. It's just sitting there. So make sure you are the one to collect it. So that is definitely a great way. And we also do have those automatic entrance scholarships that are available for our students. Now, these are based academically merit-based, which means that when you are applying to UTM, the admission average that you do get accepted with, if it does fall within our criteria of what is going to be considered for an automatic entrance scholarship, you will be given that at the time of your offer. That's a really great question, OJ. Now, Melissa, I'm going to be asking you a question because I know students often ask this a lot, is how did you start getting involved? You talked about wanting to create your own chamber choir, and sometimes students feel as if they need to focus purely on the academics. Do you want to share a little bit about your experience?
Of course, yeah. And don't get me wrong, academics is really, really important, especially if you want to pursue professional school or grad school, or even just if you just want to pursue undergrad, academics is very important, but you do want to have other things going on in your life, including, downtime and a social life. And I think it's also really important to also do research if you like. And also getting a job, I think, is important too, even if it's just part-time. And something that we do offer at University of Toronto Mississauga is we offer work studies. And these are jobs on campus. And they know that you're a student, so they don't make you work they don't overwork you. So my job as a student ambassador is a work study position. I only work about 15 hours per week, and they understand like I may have exams and other conflicts, so they really work around my schedule, and it looks good on your resume. And on top of that, the work study job also gets you a CCR credit, on which is called a co-curricular credit on your CCR record. And that's something also specific to UTM, and again, looks really, really great if you're applying to professional or grad school.
Most definitely. And while we're speaking of co-curricular record, I'm going to come back a little bit to what you talked about during your tour. And right now, you're actually doing something for your co-curricular record. You're doing a work study program. Do you want to talk a little bit more of what is it like being a student who's working part-time? And I know you have a few other side hustles that you're doing behind the scenes as well.
Yeah, so I actually have two jobs. So my first job is here at U of T as a student ambassador. My second job, I work at Pandora at a local mall in Mississauga. And honestly, working two jobs and going to school is pretty challenging. I'm not gonna lie. Most people just choose to do one. I figured that I wanted to get extra experience and really make my application stand out. And I think it also helps me work on my time management skills. And personally, for work studies, how you apply for them, we have a website called CLNX, and it has on-campus jobs, off-campus jobs, and even volunteer opportunities as well. So that's like my go-to site when I'm looking for any sort of jobs or experiences I can get access to on campus. So that's how I applied. And personally, I find the work study really, really flexible. Everyone is in my office. Personally, everyone is really, really friendly. They get that you're a student, and they really work around your schedule. And overall, I've had a really positive experience.
I'm so happy to hear that. All right, OJ. So I'm going to be putting you now in the hot seat. And so for students who are thinking of applying, or who have already applied for different programs at different universities, what would be the best advice you would give them to figure out what is the best decision that they can make for their academic career? Like, where should they choose?
Well, the first thing you always want to realize is that everyone's decision is going to be based on them. So what you want to do is look at all the schools you have. What I typically tell students is leave them on a sheet of paper, put them on a table, and make kind of a chart list of what you're looking for. So, for example, have you visited a campus? For us, we have lots of campus tours where you can come in and see the campus. Two, am I able to speak to maybe a student advisor, student ambassador, someone like Melissa who's here today? Maybe hear some experiences from them. So, how did that experience relate to you, and do you enjoy that? Third, maybe look at some student clubs that are on campus. That's something we also have posted just in the chat recently. And then also, what are you going to learn in this degree? What are you going to finish with? What does that look like? And these are all things that like I would put those down on the table and pick out which ones you want best. And then from that position, I'll start trying to contact the school and come into things exactly like this. And we have lots of different events that happen throughout the year for people that are trying to choose which school to go to, because it is a very hard decision to make. And it is something that you may feel at the time is really daunting, but that's what we're here for, is to help you kind of through that process. So asking questions is a good thing. Speaking with your parents is a good thing. I always suggest people to speak to some sort of students that are actually on campus, so you get the real organic answers that you're looking for. And always, 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 always find some way to come to campus. It's going to be the place where you're going to be spending a lot of your time. That's the best way to kind of feel whether this is the best place for you.
Now, Melissa, you've been a student a lot recent, and then both OJ and he shared a lot of really great advice. Do you want to talk about how you figured out that UTM was the place for you?
Sure. So, yeah, I think when I was first starting to apply, I don't think I really knew what I wanted to do. I knew that I never took a psychology course, but what I planned on doing in the future was a speech language pathologist. So I figured psychology was the best. And I heard a lot of really great things about U of T. My dad went there. I had a friend who went to the UTM campus, and I applied to other schools in Ontario. And I think the thing that really made me choose U of T was the campus tours. I've been to other campuses, and some of them were beautiful. Others, I figured I just didn't get the best feel from them. And when I stepped onto U of T's campus, I just felt really at home. To be honest, that sounds probably really cheesy, but I think it was just the nature. I went when it was May, so there's lots of flowers and animals, and I don't know. I really liked that. I prefer more of like a country feel over a city landscape. So I think that's what really drove me to U of T.
Perfect. All right. So the next question I have, Melissa, for you is that we do see that a lot of students are going to be commuter students. Now, I know we have a really good perk that comes with the UTM tuition. Do you want to share a little bit more of what that is? You talked about it in your tour, but give a little bit much more detail of what does that really mean?
Sure. So, yeah. For those of you who are going to be commuting, I've done both. I've bused and now I drive. I'll first talk a bit about busing. So, again, so we have U passes, which are bus passes that are free with your tuition. You pick them at the student center, and when you get on any My Way bus, you just show, the bus driver your the bus pass and then your T card. They'll let you on. And for my commute personally, it took about an hour, depending on where you live. If you live anywhere in Mississauga, it typically takes about an hour, depending on how many buses you take. And it's nice too because you don't have to pay any extra tuition. And I did that for my first year and then half of my second year. And then afterwards, because I worked two jobs, I got a bit of money. I ended up affording a used car, so I got that, and it did shorten my commute a bit. And for those of you who are planning on driving to campus, we do offer parking passes as well. So we have multiple different parking spots on campus. Some of them are different prices than others, and it's cheaper than paying at the meter. So I worked it out, and it's actually cheaper to buy a pass versus just paying at the meter.
Yeah, when I was a student, I absolutely loved the UPass because it just took me anywhere and everywhere within the state of Mississauga that I need to go. And as you mentioned, like once you have it, you don't need to worry about anything else. Like that's your payment of method. So, OJ, I have a question here about students who are interested in understanding what does the post system mean? What does it look like? Do you want to share a little bit more about that? So, the program areas of study.
Yes, sorry, one second. I'm just answering someone in the chat. Yeah, so if you want to find more information about what are you studying, I just put a program plan in the chat actually just right now. That's going to give you a lot of the courses that you're going to be finding when you're actually studying. So if you want to check that link out, it's going to give you a broad list of different programs and the courses that are kind of within that.
Yeah, and so to give a little bit more detail about what does post mean, for anyone who is unfamiliar with this terminology, post simply just means what are you going to be specializing in here at UTM. So what does that really mean? So when you do apply to come study at UTM, you're going to be applying to a broad admission category. Now, I always like to explain this to students by thinking about a funnel approach. Your first year is just going to be filled with introductory courses to really build up your knowledge, develop the skill sets that you're going to need for your senior year studies. So you're going to start off super, super broad. And then at the end of your first year, that's when you're going to get into much more detail. You're going to be choosing either a specialization, a major, or a minor. So when people talk about post, they tend to go between those three. So specialization means that you're going to really, really make sure you're mastering that material that you're studying. So think about 80 to 90% of your course load is going to be on a specific topic. A major means that you're going to be doing about 40 to 50% in one area. So definitely really, really honing down that material. And a minor means that you're just going to be touching at it about 20 to 30%. So this is definitely something that's really great if students want to explore different areas of study, want to pursue one of their passion subjects, but don't necessarily want to take it after graduation. Definitely a great avenue. So I know post sounds are really, really confusing for students who are in high school, but we promise you we have tons of options and you'll definitely have a lot of support here to help figure out what's the best option for you. All right, Melissa. So following up on that, we have a question that kind of just relates to that. And so students are wanting to understand, what do they mean? What do I mean when I say general courses in the first year? Because in the second year, that's when you choose the specialization. So I know you were in life sciences. So do you want to share what it was like for you in your first year?
Sure. So in my first year, I actually took more humanities because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. But yeah, so my first year I took intro psych, intro sociology, and I'll just use intro psych for an example. So in intro psych, we touched upon every single concept or topic in psych. So we learned about neuroscience, abnormal psychology, social psychology, personality, and then it's like this for every course that you do. So if you do chemistry, you do thermodynamics, atoms, stuff like that. And then as you go off into second year, those topics you learned in your first year classes kind of become their own classes. So I'll just take psychology, for example. So in first year, I learned about neuroscience. And then in my second year, I took a neuroscience course. And so it got a bit more broad. So I only learned about neuroscience. And then in my third year, I love neuroscience, so I took more of it. So I learned about specific topics in neuroscience, such as neuroplasticity, and learned about like just abnormal psychology in neuroscience perspective. So it just gets like more broad depending on an area that you go into. Yeah, I don't know if that makes too much sense, but typically for first years you learn about every topic, and then whatever topic you like from that one course, it has its own courses.
You explained it well. First year, you're taking a bunch of different things, and whatever you like, you just pursue it afterwards. We do have we're starting to get really, really great questions as well. So the first question I'm going to ask is how far are the campuses from each other? So I did mention that we are one university with 3 campuses spread across the Greater Toronto area, which means that we're about 30 minutes to 1 hour distance from each other. I say that because I don't know if you're familiar with Toronto traffic, but sometimes it's a little crazy. So we do have that little gap in between one another. However, it's definitely commutable. In fact, Melissa actually talked about one of the great perks of being a UTM student is that we do have that shuttle bus. It is free of charge for UTM students, which means that you're able actually to get all the way to downtown Toronto, downtown to the St. George campus, free of charge every single time, every single way, whereas other students on other campuses would have to pay for that. So they are relatively close to one another. Now, another question we are getting is from Roya, and she was wanting to know if there are any clubs that are dedicated for people of faith, and then also I'm going to take this moment to talk about if there are any women's spaces as well. So yes, we do have tons and tons of clubs available on campus. As Melissa talked about, she's creating her own club, which means that we really strive to make sure you have that representation on campus. So we do have different religious organizations, like Muslim Students Association is one of them on campus. And again, if one of the clubs that you are interested in being a part of doesn't currently exist, no problem at all. You can go ahead and get started and create your own. When I was in undergrad, we actually created our own initiative, which was the Sikh Heritage Week. So it's definitely possible. Now for women's spaces, we have actually at the gym, we have something called the Women Only Hours. And I think this is a phenomenal time for women who are just trying to build up the confidence or who don't really want to be around the male gaze. You can definitely work out and have your own little private area. All right, so that's enough babble from me, and I'm going to be passing the mic over to Melissa. We have a great question here from Josh, and that is, what is for you the most challenging thing as a UTM student, and what is your advice for overcoming it?
That's a really good question. I think for me, it was, overall time management. I think you guys probably hear you're in high school and you hear from university students that first year is a transition, and it is, but I like to think it's only as hard as you make it. So if you don't put in the work, it's going to be really hard. If you put in lots of work, you're going to really succeed. You're going to do well. And for me, I think the thing I struggled with a bit was just time management and just figuring out how to study, because it's just different from high school. The lectures, like it's all on your own. Like the professors won't be like, hey, you got to do work. You have to kind of put that responsibility is all on you now. So it's on you if you miss a deadline. So just kind of getting into the groove of that, making sure that I'm up to date, I'm up to speed with everything that's in my courses, everything that's due, and just making sure my time management is on point and my study skills are okay and are always improving. And ways that I improved on that, I would ask my professors. I would ask, like, for your tests, how should I study for them? Just overall time management. How can I really dedicate as much time as I can to your course? And I did mention that I go to the Academic Skills Center a lot for my assignments. I highly recommend doing that. And it's also there you can learn about study skills and time management skills as well. And I don't think those are the hardest skills for a lot of students. And if you go to the Skills Center and always ask your professors and TAs for help in those areas as well, then you'll be absolutely fine.
Thank you. There's definitely a lot of great advice that you gave over there. So the last question I see over here, I'm going to direct this over to you, OJ, and that is Sam is asking, would admissions be based on recent results from post-secondary schools or special academic programs, or would it be based on high school test scores?
So it first depends on what your situation is. So if you are coming from, for example, you just studied at Humber College, or if you studied at another university, then your results will be based off of your most recent post-secondary aspect. Now, that does also not take into account that there are some prerequisites that you need to have sometimes from high schools that you need to always have. Now, if you're coming directly from high school, it will be your grade 12 marks that we'll be looking at. And if your grade 12 marks aren't fully complete, because some students are still going through classes right now, obviously, we'll be taking your grade 11 marks to use. So it is on a case-by-case basis. The best thing to do is to really figure out, well, for us to help us out, to let us know if you're a transfer student, which means you're already in college or some sort of post-secondary, or you're coming directly from high school.
Definitely. So it really just depends on your situation, as OJ mentioned. But again, one of my colleagues will definitely leave the links in the chat of what is it like to be transferring either when you're coming out of college or university, to see what are the different requirements that are going to be needed of you, and are you meeting the eligibility process. So I think that actually wraps up all of the questions that we do have here today. And before we end off, I always love to end off with the best question ever. And that is, in Melissa's script, she talked a lot about all the different food options on campus. So I want to do a roundtable to see what everyone's favorite food option on campus is. And I know, Melissa, you talked about the Thai Express. So think of something else that you also really, really enjoy. We'll start off with you, OJ, since you are the most recent.
I'm quite a boring person when it comes to food. I stick to the staple of what I've already enjoyed, and I'm a hamburger and fry type of guy. So I typically go with Harvey's, and it tastes just as good as outside. So there's really nothing you can beat better than some good burgers and fries, and it's right on campus. So that's the best part about it. You can also get pizza. Although, like I said, burgers and fries is what I like to go to. But I'm sure Melissa will have a more interesting food palette than what I do.
But to be honest, I've never tried Harvey's, and I think I've always wanted to. You know what? Next time I go on campus, I'm going to try it. For me, so I'd mentioned a building called Deerfield, and in Deerfield, there was a cafeteria there. And in first year, I discovered that there was lemon bars there, and I love sweets. If you give me all the sweets in the world, and no one stopped me, I would eat all. I love sweets. And yeah, these things were delicious. I was obsessed with them. And my friends would make fun of me because they would ask me oh, we're going to go for lunch. We're going to get a snack. What do you want? And I'm like, lemon bars.
I love that. So we have comfort food over here. We have the sweet tooth over here. For me, I actually recently started getting into this, and that is the Mongolian grill. So we have a Mongolian grill on campus, and it's just a great blend of noodles, chicken, and a bunch of veggies for anyone who's not really familiar. And it's also a great way to convince me that I'm eating healthy on campus as well. So I absolutely love that. And I do see here, we did get a question, and that is, are there any halal food options on campus? And yes, we do have tons of options on campus that cater to the different dietary restrictions. So whether that be halal, non-halal, gluten-free, keto, peanut allergies, and so forth, all you just have to do is just ask whichever restaurant you're visiting, what are they offering? But we do have tons of different options available for everyone. So I think that's it for all of the questions today. Thank you so much for OJ and Melissa for joining me on today's Discovery Day. Thank you so much for my team for answering all of those questions. And if you do have any more questions after today's session, please feel free to contact us at the contact information over here. We'll accept queries either through phone call or through through our email. And we also do have tons and tons and tons of virtual events lined up in the near future. So one of my colleagues will definitely be able to link that in the chat below. So with that being said, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. We really appreciate your time. Bye.